One Nation could play a role in this election. Their primary support was as high as 8%, up from 5% at the last election, although it dipped at 7% in the latest news poll. The minor party is authorising the reprinting of how-to-vote cards to give higher preferences to the coalition as well, including the seat of Dixon, held by the opposition leader himself, Peter Dutton. Joining me now is One Nation Senator for Queensland Malcolm Roberts, who's in Pimpama on the Gold Coast. Thank you for your time. How would you sum up the mood of voters there? Because it seems as though a lot are not thrilled with the last 3 years, but not really clamouring for change if you see the support increasing for Labor in particular over the past few weeks.
Not really thrilled is an understatement. They detest the Labor-Greens government, Tom, you're absolutely right. Actually, there are several things that I'm picking up. One is very strong support for One Nation. They love what we're doing, they love our policies, really do think very highly of them. But people are doing it tough and they're very disgruntled. People are really being squeezed by cost of living pressures. Life in Australia is becoming unaffordable. They see no answer in either Peter Dutton or Anthony Albanese, no answer. Many of them are saying, to hell with it, it's not worth voting in this country anymore. Some are even saying, I've got to leave this country. I hope you get in, Malcolm. So that's the mood. Anger, apathy, disgruntlement and some excitement for One Nation.
The coalition has been wary of trying to get, I suppose you call them Trump supporters in Australia, in appealing to them too directly, because the middle ground in Australia clearly isn't a big fan of Donald Trump. Where do you sit on this? Are you rolling out the welcome mat, or do you say, well, there's a fair bit of destabilisation, including in our region, that might not be helped by Donald Trump?
What we've noticed is that we have been talking about the same things as Donald Trump for years now. I mean, literally years. And that's because he listens to the American people and they're telling him what they want and he's reflecting that back. We do the same here, particularly Pauline and I. We listen to the people and reflect that back. It happens to be the same message because people want to return to common sense. People are talking about energy, they're talking about immigration, catastrophic immigration, housing policies that are destroying housing in this country in terms of price. They're talking about family, destruction of families and undermining of families. They're talking about pushing a globalist agenda, which is all true. They're talking about cultural damage. I've rarely heard that before in this country, but mums and dads, workers, businesses are saying, we are letting our culture deteriorate. Where is the Australia that we used to have? People want Australia back. I'm talking about people of all backgrounds, all nationalities. They came here for what Australia had to offer, and in particular our culture. And now it's being smashed. Indians, Pakistanis, they're all saying the same thing. So
on what you say to voters who say that, though, I mean, Donald Trump, that was an election where he wins or Kamala Harris won, and then they would really be able to shape the country. Executive orders, we've seen them signed in a flurry. I mean, realistically, there isn't going to be much you can do. And is that further diminished, Labor emerging as a clear favourite? What would your role be in a parliament where Labor perhaps holds a majority or a minority? There's not going to be much you're going to be called on in terms of a relevant vote, is there?
Well, Tom, it all depends upon the polls. The polls are saying that we have had an enormous increase since 2022. And if that's the case, when we just missed out in Western Australia, just missed out in South Australia, just missed out in Victoria, came 7th out of 6 in New South Wales and Tasmania, if the polls are correct, and going around it certainly feels that way, then we will have senators in those other states. That gives us enormous power. Not power to run the country, sadly, but power to stop them destroying the country. That's very, very important. And right now, we are terrified of something far worse. At the moment, we have a Greens, Teals, David Pocock, and Labor coalition in the Senate. That's what runs the show. It's not Anthony Albanese's outright majority in the lower house. It's a coalition of Greens, Teals, and Anthony Albanese Labor Party in the Senate. We are terrified of that being the same in the lower house. That's why we're supporting, in a sense, that rather than let preferences exhaust, we would rather put Liberal before Labor. But they're the voters' preferences, they're not our preferences. We don't do deals and that kind of thing. We make suggestions on what we think is best for the country.
Yeah, well, you're talking about how-to-vote cards and the fact that previously One Nation hasn't listed the Liberal Party, now you do. So you'd rather it go to the Liberal Party rather than exhaust, just to explain to our viewers. You mentioned there an increase in support. Look, depending on what poll, the latest news poll has you at 7%. It's significantly up in percentage point terms, it's up 2%. It could make a difference. Do you see, you alluded to more senators there, do you see a minimum pass mark as not just returning yourself and keeping the team the same size, but expanding the One Nation senators? If you don't get more in this current environment, that would not be a pass mark?
Yes, we're hearing from people on the ground that they want more One Nation impact in Parliament. And we've seen, as I said, we came very, very close last time, and we've got increase in polls. So if that's true reflection, and I believe it is, then that would be a pass mark, more senators.
But if you don't
and
get
also,
that,
we've got a very good chance in the lower house.
Would that be a disappointing result? If you don't get any more senators, would that be a disappointing election?
If we get an increase in vote, that would be a very, very satisfying result.
Even if it doesn't come with an extra senator?
Well, even if it doesn't come with an extra senator, but people are saying that we will see extras. We're also looking at the House of Reps. We've got good chances in some seats there, very good chances in some seats.
All right, well, I think that would be a surprise. So I think a lot of people would call that a success if you got in the lower house. Let me ask you finally on this. There's a graphic we'll bring up. I assume you don't have a screen you can see at your end, but it got a bit of attention. I assume you know what the one is. It's talking about bringing back, if you like, the traditional family in Australia. So we'll bring up the picture so our viewers know what I'm talking about as well. But this was put out there. There was a bit of commentary about it as well. Bring back the Australian dream is what it said. There's an outdoor idyllic setting. It just looks a bit odd. I mean, the father has an extra arm and the kids' faces don't quite seem formed. Is this? I'm just genuinely intrigued. Is this a hidden message I'm missing here, or is this just a quick AI that was a bit of a cheapie?
I think you know the answer to that, Tom. Well, we actually took a very good photo of a family, in a real family, sitting down with me on the ground having a picnic, an Australia Day function that we ran on the northern end of the Gold Coast. And instead of using that photo, and I don't know why, because we're using it on our brochures, our flyers, the person who made the meme used an AI-generated one. And yes, Australian families are not typically with 7 fingers on one hand or having an extra arm pop out of their shoulders. So yeah, that was a mistake.
Look,
we didn't get it closely enough.
Look, fair enough. You know, if all else fails, use the real photo. So no, look, I just never know. Sometimes in this modern age, it's a hidden message. I thought I'd. No worries. All right, Senator, appreciate your time today. Thank you.